Have you ever stopped to wonder why some people seem to defy time? While many of us believe that aging means losing energy and health, there are those who prove exactly the opposite. Imagine someone who lived for more than a century, always smiling, working and taking care of their body without giving up the little pleasures in life. This is the secret you will discover today, and it can change the way you view aging. Have you ever heard of the simple secret that can help you maintain a healthy weight even after you're 60? The answer may surprise you. According to the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, maintaining a balanced lifestyle in your later years can reduce your risk of heart disease and diabetes by up to 82%, the biggest threats to living longer and healthier lives. But what if I told you that this doesn't involve any miracle diets or gym workouts? It's much simpler and more accessible than you might think. This story begins in Japan, where a very special doctor, known for his vitality and wisdom, decided to prove that getting older is not synonymous with getting sick. Not only did he live to be over 100 years old, but he also worked actively until that age. How? He followed a set of simple habits, which you will now learn about. And no, it has nothing to do with magic formulas. It is about small choices that, added together, make all the difference. Sounds too good to be true? You bet it isn't. Today, studies conducted by Stanford University have shown that quality of life and weight control in old age are directly linked to factors such as moderate eating, daily exercise, and, above all, how you approach each day. This is exactly what our Japanese character understood so well. Every gesture counts, and balance is the key. Over the next few minutes, I'll tell you how these simple gestures, which we often ignore, can be applied in a practical way. What's more, I'll share other practices that have scientific backing so that you can get inspired and adapt them to your routine, whoever and wherever you are. After all, we all want to live well, don't we? We all dream of a future where we wake up full of energy, without unnecessary pain, and with a smile on our face. This is not a privilege for the few. It is a real possibility. The secret is to stop looking for quick solutions and start cultivating habits that respect the body and mind. So, if you're tired of seeing diets that promise miracles and exercises that seem impossible, get ready to change your perspective. Let's discover together how balance and moderation can be the key to a healthy weight and a long life. It's not about living long. It's about living with quality every day. And now, before we get to the practical tips that changed the life of this legendary doctor, I want to know, what city or country are you watching this video from? Comment below so I know how far this message can reach. Imagine someone who, at 100 years old, still saw patients, wrote books, and climbed stairs without complaining. It may seem like something from another world, but this was the reality of Shigeki Hinohara, a Japanese doctor who became synonymous with vitality and hope. He was born in 1911 in Yamaguchi, Japan, and from an early age showed an indefatigable curiosity about life. Throughout his career, Hinohara taught us that aging is not just a matter of time, it is a matter of attitude. Throughout his career, he held prominent positions in the Japanese healthcare system, leading St. Luke's International Hospital in Tokyo for more than 5 decades. Under his leadership, the hospital became a benchmark not only for medicine, but also for humane care and respect for the dignity of each patient. But what was most impressive was the way he personally made a point of maintaining close relationships with everyone, from fellow physicians to ordinary patients. What's most fascinating is that Hinohara believed that health goes beyond the body. He talked about ikigai, the reason why you get out of bed every day. For him, having a reason to live was as essential as eating well and exercising. This philosophy, typical of Japanese culture, fit perfectly into his life. He not only cared for his patients with dedication, he also cared for himself, finding joy in every little detail. In his books and lectures, Hinohara always spoke about moderation and balance. But what really made him unforgettable were his daily actions. For example, he refused to use the elevator whenever possible. He preferred to walk up the stairs, as a way of keeping his body active and his mind alert. And even at crowded events, he made a point of walking and talking to people. He believed that every exchange of words was an exercise in empathy. According to data from the National Institute on Aging in the United States, people who maintain intense intellectual and social activities have a 70% lower risk of developing dementia. This fits perfectly with Hinohara's lifestyle. He was always writing, giving lectures, and learning something new. And more than that, he inspired everyone around him to also seek this kind of balance. What makes this story so powerful is the realization that his longevity was no accident. HINOHARA was not born with a special blessing. He made conscious choices. He prioritized what really mattered, cultivated healthy habits, and never stopped learning. This is the greatest lesson he left us, that, regardless of age, it is always possible to grow and evolve. When we look at his life, it is impossible not to think, what if we could also adopt this curious and optimistic outlook? If each of us discovered our own ikigai and nurtured it every day? HINOHARA proved that this is more than a pretty concept. It's a real path for anyone who wants to reach 100 with energy and purpose. And now, how about we reflect together on how this philosophy can be part of your daily life? In the next installment, we'll explore the surprisingly simple and practical tips that have transformed HINOHARA into a symbol of longevity. After all, the secret is to start small and never stop. When we think about maintaining a healthy weight, we usually imagine restrictive diets and endless lists of do's and don'ts. But for someone who lived more than a century with energy and determination, like HINOHARA, food was not a battlefield. It was an act of care and respect for one's own body, something that begins with simplicity and pleasure. The basis of this philosophy is moderation. HINOHARA believed that the secret to living well in old age was not cutting out food groups or following passing trends. It was choosing fresh, colorful, and nutritious foods without excess. He himself said, "Eat until you feel 80% full." This principle, called hara-hachi in Japan, it teaches you to listen to your body and stop eating before you feel full. According to the American Heart Association, adopting a diet rich in vegetables, fruits, and lean proteins can reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease in the elderly by up to 25%. This shows that, in addition to prolonging life, conscious choices at the table strengthen the heart and metabolism, essential for those who want to age independently and strongly. But it's not enough to choose well. It's also important to eat slowly and mindfully. HINOHARA liked to say that meals were sacred moments, and that we should chew calmly, savor each bite, and tune out distractions. This habit, known as mindful eating, helps to avoid overeating and improves digestion, something essential for those who no longer have the same metabolism as before. In everyday life, this means creating colorful dishes, prioritizing vegetables and fibers that nourish and satiate. Including lean proteins, such as fish and legumes, ensures muscle strength and prevents the loss of lean mass, a common risk in old age. In addition, giving preference to natural seasonings and reducing ultra-processed foods as much as possible makes all the difference. HINOHARA was also a fan of the little rituals that make eating a moment of pleasure. For example, the habit of drinking green tea, rich in antioxidants and a natural calming agent, or consuming fermented foods, such as miso or homemade yogurts. According to a study by Tufts University, natural probiotics strengthen the immune system and help balance intestinal flora, which directly impacts mood and disposition. An interesting point is how food brings back emotional memories. The Japanese doctor argued that meals should have meaning. Sharing a hot soup on a cold day or smelling the rice that reminds us of childhood are moments that warm the heart. He believed that the pleasure of eating well is as important as the nutritional value of eating. When we talk about maintaining weight and health in old age, many people think of long hours at the gym or strenuous exercise. But for someone like HINOHARA, who lived for more than a century, the secret was something much simpler. Daily movement, done lightly and constantly. No intense running or great sacrifices, just the commitment to never stop. HINOHARA was a great advocate of what we now call incidental physical activity. He preferred the stairs to the elevator and, whenever he could, he walked instead of taking the car. Small gestures that, added up over the course of a day, strengthened the body and kept the metabolism active. Exactly what studies from Johns Hopkins University indicate is essential for the health of the elderly. These daily movements have a direct impact on blood circulation and the maintenance of muscle mass. In old age, the loss of lean mass is one of the main factors that lead to weight gain and difficulty in performing simple tasks. However, with light walks and stretching, it is possible to reverse this trend and ensure greater strength and balance for the body. The most interesting thing is that HINOHARA did not see movement as an obligation, but as a way to live fully. He always said that physical activity should bring joy and not fatigue or suffering. Therefore, in addition to walking, he advocated practices such as gardening, dancing, and even household chores done with enthusiasm and presence. According to the Mayo Clinic, seniors who engage in 150 minutes of light physical activity per week have a 30% lower risk of developing chronic diseases, such as type 2 diabetes and hypertension. And this doesn't mean training like an athlete. 20 minutes of walking per day, for example, is enough to reap the benefits. An important point that HINOHARA always reinforced was respecting the body's limits. No exaggerations or comparisons. Each person has their own pace, and the most important thing is not to give up. For those with joint pain or other limitations, gentle stretching and low-impact exercises, such as Tai Chi Chuan, are excellent allies. In addition to the physical impact, these gentle practices also have a powerful effect on the mind. Outdoor activities, for example, help reduce stress and improve mood. And, according to the American Psychological Association, older adults who exercise regularly have a lower risk of depression and anxiety, problems that often go unnoticed but profoundly affect quality of life. In HINOHARA'S philosophy, each step was an opportunity to reconnect with one's own essence. You didn't need to follow a rigid program or seek aesthetic results. What mattered was keeping the body awake and the mind curious, two pillars that, together, make all the difference for those who want to go far. Have you ever thought about including more movement in your routine? Even if it's just a short walk around the block or a few minutes of stretching before bed, every gesture counts. Because, as HINOHARA showed, life is made of movement, and those who move, live. In the next step, we'll discover how rest and quality sleep complete this cycle of vitality. After all, learning to stop and recover energy is just as important as moving. Let's join us. When we talk about healthy habits, we often forget that rest is just as essential as food and physical activity. HINOHARA, who lived for over a century with enviable stamina, knew this better than anyone. For him, sleeping well was not a luxury. It was a vital necessity, a gift we give our body and mind so they can continue to function in harmony. Getting adequate rest helps regulate your metabolism, balance your hormones, and keep your immune system strong. Factors that, according to the National Sleep Foundation, reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease and diabetes in older adults by up to 40%. But to reap these benefits, you need to cultivate habits that promote sleep and relaxation. HINOHARA had a habit of sticking to a regular sleep schedule, creating a peaceful nighttime routine. He also valued short naps during the day, known as power naps, which, according to Harvard Medical School, can improve memory and concentration by up to 30% in older people. For him, these moments of pause were not signs of laziness, but smart strategies to renew energy. Furthermore, HINOHARA always recommended creating an environment that is conducive to rest. A dark, quiet room with a comfortable temperature helps the body to relax. He also avoided bright lights and cell phone screens before bed, something that we now know, from studies at the University of California, can compromise the production of melatonin, the hormone that regulates sleep. But rest is not just about the number of hours slept. It's also about the quality of that sleep. Eating light foods at night, doing gentle exercise at the end of the day, and creating a wind-down ritual, such as drinking a calming tea or listening to relaxing music, are simple actions that make all the difference. HINOHARA liked to take advantage of the night to reflect on the day, giving thanks for the small achievements. He believed that cultivating gratitude helped reduce anxiety and sleep with a peaceful mind. This habit, in fact, has scientific support. Studies from the University of California showed that people who keep a gratitude journal have 25% better quality of sleep and wake up more rested. Another point he emphasized was not to dwell on worries or negative thoughts before going to bed. After all, a restless mind is the greatest enemy of rest. To help, he recommended deep breathing and meditation practices, resources that are now widely recommended by mental health experts for those who want to relax and let go of tension. This wisdom reminds us that rest is a fundamental pillar for maintaining weight and vitality, especially in old age. When we sleep well, our body regulates appetite better, controls blood sugar levels better, and recovers energy for the next day's activities. So, If you want to follow HINOHARA'S example and live each day with more energy, don't ignore the power of a good night's sleep and taking conscious breaks during the day. In the next section, we'll explore how joy in life and curiosity can be just as important as food or rest. After all, the secret to a healthy body also lies in keeping your spirit awake. The body doesn't live on food and movement alone. What goes beyond the plate and physical exercise is what feeds the soul, and HINOHARA understood this truth like few others. For him, the mind needed constant care, just as much as the heart and muscles. After all, a restless head can bring down a healthy body, while positive thoughts and constant curiosity make life lighter and more enjoyable. What made HINOHARA so special was the way he saw old age, not as a period of limitations, but as an opportunity to expand horizons and experience new passions. He argued that the joy of living was the fuel for longevity, and that finding a purpose made all the difference in facing each dawn. In practice, this meant keeping your brain active and your mind open. Reading books, writing reflections, learning a new skill, or simply listening to other people's stories. According to studies published by the American Psychological Association, people who remain socially and intellectually engaged have up to a 50% lower risk of developing cognitive decline and depression, two specters that many face in old age. HINOHARA also believed in the power of human relationships. He saw every conversation as a chance to connect and learn something new. That's why he surrounded himself with friends, colleagues, and patients, all with their own stories, joys, and pains. It was as if each person was a book he had the opportunity to leaf through. He also had hobbies that filled his heart with enthusiasm. Music, art, and even gardening for him. Everything was a source of enchantment. These activities, even though simple, played a vital role. They cultivated curiosity and brought purpose to the day. And, as the University of California has shown in recent studies, maintaining these interests causes the brain to release endorphins and serotonin, substances that generate well-being and reduce inflammation in the body. Another essential point was spirituality, which for HINOHARA did not have just one form. It could be faith, gratitude, or simply the feeling that each day brings a new gift. He believed that keeping the flame of hope alive was a way of taking care of not only the mind, but also the heart. This approach integrated all areas of life, body, mind, and spirit. And perhaps this is the greatest lesson he left us. The balance between these three pillars is the secret to aging with dignity and joy. There is no point in focusing on just one and forgetting the others. They all complement each other and support health. Now, I want to invite you to reflect. What makes your heart beat faster? What activity brings a sparkle to your eyes? Maybe it's time to reclaim those little pleasures, or to discover new passions that transform your days. Because, as HINOHARA proved, it doesn't take much to keep the flame of life burning. In the next section, we will understand how these conscious choices can be transformed into concrete results for health and vitality. After all, the sum of simple gestures can be more powerful than any miracle formula. Are you ready to continue this journey? Now that we know the fundamentals that guided HINOHARA'S journey, it's time to bring these practices together and see how they intertwine to create a harmonious and vital lifestyle. He showed that health does not depend on a single solution or a rigid path. It depends on daily choices that complement each other and form a virtuous cycle. HINOHARA always saw a balanced diet as the foundation, choosing fresh ingredients, valuing moderation, and, at the same time, cultivating pleasure in eating are all aspects that nourish the body and mind. But he also knew that the table alone would not sustain his energy, so he kept his body active by taking short walks, climbing stairs, and accepting simple everyday challenges. These gestures, combined with the serenity he cultivated in his routine, helped to keep his metabolism stable and strengthen the body's natural defenses. According to data from the National Institute on Aging, the combination of a healthy diet, regular exercise, and quality sleep reduces the risk of chronic diseases by up to 60% in people over 60 years of age. A result that goes far beyond numbers, as it translates into more autonomy and freedom. Another fundamental aspect of HINOHARA'S philosophy was adaptation. He understood that each person has their own rhythm, and that respecting this rhythm is essential to maintaining consistency. For this reason, he never imposed a single method or recommended extreme diets. Each person must find what works for them and make it a routine, without pressure or guilt. The joy of living, which he cultivated in every detail, was the piece that connected everything. Because, as research from the American Psychological Association shows, People who maintain active hobbies and social relationships are more likely to adhere to healthy practices and have less difficulty incorporating them into their daily lives. A positive mind encourages the body to move, and vice versa. Another valuable aspect was the constant search for new learning. HINOHARA never stopped studying, even when he could have rested. For him, keeping his brain curious helped him avoid mental inactivity, something as dangerous as a lack of physical activity. This constant curiosity also kept him motivated to continue adapting habits, always paying attention to the body's needs at each stage of life. In practice, what we see is that these small changes, when applied together, generate a much greater impact than any isolated diet or exhaustive training. It is the sum of intelligent choices that creates the ground for health to flourish, a concept that goes against what many longevity experts say. There is no such thing as a miracle, but rather the power of daily gestures. And now I ask you, which of these changes makes the most sense for you to start today? Whether it's adding more vegetables to your plate, walking a little more, or setting aside a moment of silence before bed, the important thing is to take the first step. In the next section, we'll tie all these thoughts together and discover how to turn inspiration into action. After all, there's no point in hearing great stories if we don't put them into practice, right? We have reached the end of this journey through HINOHARA'S universe, and perhaps you have realized that the secret that accompanied him for so many years was not something mysterious or beyond the reach of anyone. It was the sum of everyday gestures, made with care and patience. Small details that, together, transformed his trajectory into an example of longevity and vitality. Throughout this video, we saw that moderate eating, regular exercise, restorative rest, and joy in life form a virtuous circle that protects health and strengthens the mind. But we also learned that there is no ready-made recipe. What exists is the willingness to adapt these ideas to your rhythm, your story, and what makes sense to you. The message that HINOHARA left us is clear. Aging is not a punishment, but an achievement that can be celebrated every day. Even when the body no longer has the same energy as before, the mind can flourish, the heart can beat stronger, and a smile can continue to be the best medicine. And what makes all this possible? The sincere desire to keep learning and the courage to experiment. Because every step you take towards self-care, whether it's a more balanced food choice, a walk around the neighborhood, or a new hobby, paves the way for a lighter, more meaningful future. According to research from Harvard Medical School, people who cultivate these healthy habits are better able to adapt to the natural challenges of aging and are able to maintain autonomy for longer. This data reinforces what we have seen so far. It is not the big promises that change lives, but rather the small actions repeated day after day. So today, I invite you to think, how do you want to live the time you have left? What can you do now to make the years ahead full of purpose and joy? Maybe the answer lies in starting small. After all, that's how HINOHARA built his legacy, step by step. Don't wait for perfect conditions or a last-minute miracle. Start with what you have, adapt it to your own style, and move forward. Because true longevity comes from the inside out, from the way you choose to take care of yourself and the love you put into every decision. Before I finish, I want to ask you something very simple. Share in the comments a change you intend to make starting today. It can be something small, but it should have meaning for you. And, of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to continue receiving content that will inspire you to live better every day. Remember, life is about choices, and every choice counts. Thanks for following along, and see you in the next video.